Today, we're jumping into Jordan Peterson's Beyond Order. Now, you might know his first book, 12 Rules for Life, which was all about being an antidote to chaos. Well, this book tackles the opposite problem, the danger of having way too much security. Let's dive in. Right off the bat, Peterson doesn't start with some lofty philosophical idea. Nope, he starts with a crisis, his own. This line from the book's opening just throws you right into it. It grounds these big ideas of order and chaos in a very real, very human moment of total vulnerability. I mean, imagine waking up unable to speak the language, hooked up to machines. It's the ultimate loss of control. So that opening really sets the stage for the core tension of this book. You see, 12 Rules for Life was for the person whose life was falling apart, too much chaos. But Beyond Order asks, okay, but what happens when you go too far the other way? It explores how too much order, too much safety can become its own kind of prison. A life that's maybe stable, sure, but also completely stagnant and empty. All right, let's really get into this first big idea, the prison of security. This is all about how that deep desire we have for safety, for avoiding conflict at all costs, can end up trapping us. To make this crystal clear, Peterson tells this powerful story about one of his clinical clients. This woman felt completely out of place in her own house, the one place you're supposed to feel at home. But everything, all the flashy furniture, the over-the-top art, it was all her husband's taste. None of it was her. And here's the really crucial part. How did she get there? Well, for years and years, every time her husband brought home some new thing she hated, she told herself the same thing. It's not worth fighting for. Each one of those little decisions to just keep the peace seemed harmless on its own. But add all those little moments up over decades, the result was absolutely devastating. It wasn't just about furniture anymore. It was this deep, simmering resentment. She woke up one day and realized she was a stranger not just in her house, but in her own life, because she had quietly given it all away. You know, Peterson actually has a name for this state of being. He calls it the fog. It's that haze of willful ignorance we create for ourselves when we're scared. Scared to admit what we truly want, because that would mean risking conflict, risking failure. So instead, we just pretend not to see it, and we hide all these difficult truths in the fog, where they just fester. So if the problem is hiding out in the fog, what's the solution? Well, it's to march straight into it. This part of the book is a call to action. It's about voluntarily walking into the unknown to face the very things we're afraid of. And he lays out a path forward, kind of like a 3-step plan. First, you have to be willing to be a beginner, to play the role of the fool. Second, you need to start looking for the places where responsibility has just been dropped. And third, you have to voluntarily face the abyss, the big scary monsters of chaos, society, and, well, yourself. Let's dig into that first step. When he says the fool, don't think of it as an insult. Think of the tarot card. The fool is the one with all the potential, the one willing to step off the cliff into the unknown because they're open to what might happen. You absolutely have to embrace that beginner's mindset if you want any real growth. This story is a perfect example of that second step. Peterson talks about a young waiter who was just complaining all the time about his job. Then one day, he just decided, okay, I'm going to stop complaining and just do the best job I possibly can. The results? He got promoted 3 times in 6 months. He found this huge opportunity right where everyone else had just given up responsibility. And that journey leads to the final confrontation. Peterson says the abyss holds a monster, and he calls it the dragon. But it's not just one thing. It's a symbol for all of it. The real dangers out there in the world, the potential for tyranny in our own societies, and maybe the scariest part, the capacity for evil that's inside every single one of us. Okay, so why in the world would anyone choose to do something so terrifying? What's the payoff? Well, this is where Peterson argues we find something real, something that actually sustains us. Meaning. First, he kind of diagnoses what he sees as a modern problem. He argues that for the last 50 years or so, our culture has been obsessed with demanding our rights, focusing on what we're owed. And in his view, this has pointed a lot of people in completely the wrong direction when they're looking for a meaningful life. This, right here, this is the heart of the entire book. Real, deep meaning, the kind that can actually carry you through the worst parts of life, doesn't come from what you demand or what you get. It comes from what you carry. It's found by voluntarily picking up responsibility, by shouldering a noble burden. I mean, that's a huge reframe, right? It flips the whole idea of responsibility on its head. It's not just a drag, not just a list of things you have to do. It's the bedrock.
It's the deepest source of purpose you can find. It's the why that lets you bear almost any how. All right, let's bring this all home. This last section brings us full circle, right back to that reality of suffering that the book kicked off with, and it offers one final, profound challenge. A core idea in Peterson's worldview is that suffering isn't an accident. It's a fundamental part of being alive. We are all going to face tragedy. So the real question isn't if we'll suffer, but how we're going to respond. And the goal is to face it head on, without letting bitterness and resentment just eat you alive. And that leads to his final, and maybe his toughest piece of advice. The ultimate way to balance the chaos of suffering with a life of order and meaning is to choose gratitude. Not because things are great, but precisely because they're not. It's a conscious, courageous act of being thankful in spite of it all. And he puts it in these incredibly stark terms. He argues that if you fall apart after a tragic loss, say the death of someone you love, it isn't a tribute to them. It's a betrayal. Staying strong isn't about denying your grief. It's the highest form of respect you can pay to the life that was lost. And so the book leaves us right here with a challenge, a question aimed directly at you. It asks you to look at your own life and wonder, where have I stepped back? Where is there a responsibility that's just been left lying on the floor? And what amazing thing might happen if I had the courage to just pick it up?